Hello everybody, welcome to the Resistance Rundown, our weekly Star Wars show where we talk movie news, small screen news, books, Galaxy's Edge, everything Star Wars.
All the Star Wars.
And we're just like 20 some odd days out to The Last Jedi.
Guys, it's getting so close.
They're releasing a TV spot every 45 seconds.
Which oddly enough starts our discussion today.
Yes.
For our movie headlines. We have 4 TV spots that came out over the course of the week.
With a combination of 4 new shots.
Yeah.
That's the...
basically.
Which I'm not complaining. That's perfectly fine.
So we had an international TV spot drop. Mainly the big thing out of that was we saw another up-close shot of DJ, and we haven't really gotten a lot of he or Laura Dern so far. Mm-hmm. We had an up-close shot of the guerrilla walkers firing, and they look freaking awesome. Let's just be honest.
They do.
We had a spot called Heroes, and that focused a lot on Finn waking up and asking where Rey is, thinking about Rey whenever he wakes up. Poor guy, Mr. Friendzone. And we also get that great line from him about he was raised to fight, but this time he has something to fight for.
Just kind of nice parallel to The Force Awakens.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So, liked that a lot. There was a TV spot called Tempt, and Rey talks about seeing the light in the dark and something else, and that's whenever you have Luke yelling at her to resist and yelling her name.
Yeah. This spot and then the next one are my 2 favorites.
So we were going to talk about that anyway. But the last TV spot is called Kylo Failed Luke, and that is probably my favorite TV spot that we have had at all. We have a lot of stuff in this. We had Luke asking or saying to Rey that you've seen this place, and her comment is only in dreams, and we're all like, what? Huh?
Yeah. Which was teased a little bit in Last Jedi, I keep saying Last Jedi, in The Force Awakens.
We already know it's in The Last Jedi,
We
guys.
already know. We've already seen
Spoiler. Just kidding.
In that interrogation scene with Kylo, because he sees an ocean and stuff, and so I feel like part of that is a little alluding to that. So.
Yeah, but still, it's still like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Then you have Rey very specifically saying, Kylo failed you, I won't, which is awesome.
It has like this like really sick like bell music as it's oh
okay,
my god.
Let's
the
be for
soundtrack
real.
so
The
far.
real MVP of every single TV spot, by the way, has been
John
music.
Williams.
Yeah.
Or whoever is doing I'm assuming it's John Williams.
I'm pretty sure it's John Williams. Anyway, whoever is doing the score for all these different things, they are the real MVP.
Yeah.
We also had a small space battle clip in this shot. We had the shot of the Falcon coming up through the mines at Crate, which looked so cool.
It's an incredible shot, yeah.
And then, I know this is not the first time we've heard him ask her this, but whenever Luke asks her, who are you, every single time I get like chills, and then my next response is, I don't know, Luke, we would like to know that question, the answer to that question too. Who is Rey?
I appreciate just like, Luke has not a clue. Like, or if he does, but I just like, it seems like a reasonable first line when someone comes and hands you your old lightsaber.
Yeah, well, well, it's not just that. It's like the gravity was what it said. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mark Hamill looks
tell you,
incredible.
Mark has looked incredible in all these things. Whenever he's yelling at Rey, man, I get chills every time on that one.
Yeah. It's
so
awesome.
There was some joking a little while ago about JJ made the comment after seeing Mark's performances that he really thought Mark should get an Oscar, and it was kind of said in jest.
Yeah.
But
as this starts coming out, it's like, no, I don't know. I think I'd be okay with that.
Well, it's to the point that it's like this may be the best Luke performance that there's been.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's not to slight anything he did in the original trilogy, but I just think
a little slight toward New Hope, but it's okay.
Well, he was real young.
He's whiny.
Well, that is the Skywalker trademark.
Yeah,
that's how we know. That's how we know Rey's not a Skywalker.
Oh.
And funny. Kylo is
right.
So it's just one of those things that it's going to be interesting to see. I'm very, very excited about Hamill's performance.
Yeah.
Not to mention, I think Hamill's just cool anyway.
I know, basically. We also had new stuff come out with Entertainment Weekly. We have some new covers. We had new images. So we're going to talk about the covers first. The first one is that we have Luke and Leia on a cover together. And of course, the big question is, will we see them on screen again?
I surely hope so. I will be very sad if we don't.
Over under 60% it's going to happen.
I feel like over, and the only reason I'm going to say that is that I feel like it would be torturous to put this on a cover and tease us with Carrie no longer being with us.
I can go with that. Yeah.
It may not be long, and that's fine as long as there is like some kind of reunion. And I feel like there has to be.
I really want there to be.
At least I really want there to be.
Yeah, agreed. And then this doesn't exactly have to do with that cover, but we did have Mark Hamill talking some about returning to the Falcon. Yeah. For the first time, and just how emotional that experience was for him personally, whenever he went in with like his family for the very first time, not being shot. And then also from Johnson's point of view of seeing Luke going on the Falcon the first time, actually shooting it, which I love Rian Johnson because while he is a wonderful writer and director, like he is also just a true Star Wars fanboy, and it makes me laugh because he's like, everyone's crowding around the monitor and being like, oh my god, Luke is back on the Falcon, you know. It
reminds me of that. There was some that behind the scenes footage of whenever Han and Chewie come onto the Falcon for the first time, because everybody is crowded in the Falcon to watch that shot, you know. So
it's fantastic.
Some of these iconic scenes.
Yeah, and just how legendary it is to see that character back on the ship, and then also talking about from Luke's point of view, just how to him like the Millennium Falcon is, but just full of ghosts, like all the people that he was on there with.
Well, that was the line.
Either not alive anymore, or he hasn't seen in who knows how many years.
That was the line that hit me really hard, because you've got to think Obi-Wan and Han and even with Leia, who he hasn't seen in a number of years.
Yeah.
But I particularly about Obi-Wan and Han.
Well, then he also made the comment, and he's like, in a way, like Luke is a ghost. Like, he's so different from what he was back then, and life has changed so dramatically. So really liked that line. I really liked that description.
There's a lot of good little information in it.
Yeah, there was. So that was the first cover, and they've been releasing stuff along all week, little things here and there. One of the other covers was Amilyn Holdo and Poe Dameron together. And we did get a little bit more from them, just in the fact of confirmation that Amilyn is rising through the ranks of the Resistance after all that's happened, in that she and Poe, which we knew they were going to have some conflict. They just have a different idea of how the Resistance should proceed. And then we also have that going on with him, just with Leia wanting him to be more than just the skillful pilot. You know what I mean? She wants him to step up and to lead and to mature. And also, I mean, his loyalty is going to be with Leia above all else, not with Amilyn. I'm pretty excited about that storyline. Mostly because Laura Dern is amazing. And after reading about this character in the Leia novel, I'm very interested to see what she's like as an adult, because they are teenagers in there. And then, you know, we watch the Star Wars show pretty much every week, and it always makes me laugh because Anthony Carboni calls Poe Dameron, you know, beautiful space boy, and that's what I also think of. I'm like, oh, our beautiful space boy, Poe Dameron. Like, always excited to see him on any of their promotion material. So
yeah, definitely.
We also have a cover of Rose and Finn, which we've gotten a lot of information about them before this cover ever hit. We know that they're going to be going on their little mission together. We know that BB-8 is with them, thanks to some new photos as well, which we're going to talk about in just a second, which leads us to our last cover, of course, the one that everyone wants to focus on, and that is Kylo Ren and Rey being on the cover together. And just how they are going to play into each other's stories. And there was a lot of talk in that article about how both of them have the ability to bring the other one to their side, just based on their shared rejection and all of this stuff.
Yeah.
Which there was a quote I was going to read as well from the article. It said, "This is very much about Rey trying to figure out how she fits into all this, much like any of us as we're growing up. As we're transitioning from childhood into adulthood. You're going to meet people who you think you're going to help who don't. And help is also going to come from unexpected places. And that was something Johnson said for the article.
Yeah.
So lots of cool stuff there. I think we're all waiting to see what's going to happen with Rey. And what's going to happen with Kylo to a certain extent, because they have teased the fact that while he has killed Han and while he is trying to be this dark force user, that there is some hesitation on his part. You have to wonder what the connection is between the two of them, because I don't know, he just seems to know something about her. That was always the thing about The Force Awakens for me.
Yeah.
He always seemed to know some semblance of her, which is weird.
Yeah. Well, I don't even necessarily think that they've met. I think it's a good possibility that they have, but she's obviously, as we're going from these trailers, even The Force Awakens, she has a very strong connection to the Force, and so I feel like he would have felt a presence, maybe not even necessarily knowing who to look for.
Yeah.
And even Leia recognizes that, there's a connection there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which I'm always very intrigued by Rey's power. I'm interested to see how much we're going to go into that, because a lot of these spots on all these trailers, Luke is scared of what she's capable of, which then makes me think that, she's more powerful than Luke in some ways, enough to scare him.
Yeah, and I go back and forth between the power thing between her and Luke, and I don't know how much of Luke he just doesn't want to do it. And I feel like they may be saving a little bit of that at some point in the film. But
we're hoping toward the end, man.
But I think because of what happens with Kylo, I think is the main reason that he is disturbed.
Absolutely.
So it's interesting. I'm personally excited to see where they go with it.
Oh, me too. So also with the 4 covers, we had about 11 photos that were released. Some are things that we've pretty much seen before based on trailers. And then some of them are new. One of the coolest ones I think we can agree on is the shot of Rey with Kylo lurking in the background.
And what looks like Snoke's throne room. There was also, I just saw this right before we started shooting. There is a international TV spot that is the same except for one shot at the end, and it's that scene, except it's Rey doing doing a force move and what looks like a dead Praetorian guard in the background.
Oh, see.
And it's just a real.
Guess you guys know what I'm going to be doing whenever we get through recording, watching that.
So that scene, I think it's going to be uber intense.
And very important.
And very important, And everything revolving around that, I feel like there's an image with Snoke as a hologram, on a bridge of a Star Destroyer, and it looks like he's talking to Hux.
That was one of your favorite.
And it's just so intense. And Snoke was not somebody that I was really all that intense to me in The Force Awakens. Nor did he necessarily have to be. They set him up
more so than anything.
He set him up, but there wasn't any truly, this guy's bad news. Whereas I feel like in this, we're going to be obviously dealing with him in person, so that will be different. But I think he's going to be a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah. So I knew that was both one of our favorite shots. The two of us. Obviously, that one with Hux and Snoke has been a big one for you. And there was one more new photo of Amilyn Holdo. And like I said, I just get excited anytime she's on anything, because they have kept her so close to the chest in this whole marketing campaign. And so loved that. And then it was kind of cool to see Rose and Finn in Kanto Bite. You kind of see people in the background, these very ornate outfits. And then BB-8 rolling along beside. BB-8 is the only one that looks like he belongs there out of the 3 of them, man. Rose is wearing her mechanic outfit, and Finn's got his hand-me-down jacket, from Poe, and then there's BB-8 looking all cute. So rolling through. Stay tuned for anything with EW this week. They're going to continue to release stuff over the next couple of days, which we'll talk about next week. So there will be more to come. And one of those little tidbits that have been released is that the Crystal Foxes have a name.
That's right.
Yay! And I might say this wrong, but Volptexes? I'm like, that's a very cool name for a very shiny animal. I don't know.
It's actually, I read it was the it's like the Latin, I think, of fox.
Okay,
or like some
there's some
variation,
kind of cool language tie-in. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, they do live on Crate, like in the salt mine area, and then they said that they will have a role to play with the Resistance. Neil Scanlon, who's a creature creator, said they live within the burrows and within the tunnels beneath the planet. So there is a time where their ability to shine within the darkness should provide a guiding light for our heroes. Which, and I'm like, they're literally going to light up, and it's going to be really cool.
Yeah.
Like,
there's also a little featurette online of them showing building the animatronic version.
Oh.
It's very cool looking.
Very neat. Very neat. So, staying on our Last Jedi kick, we do officially have a rating, which we already kind of knew what it was, but we have a rating and a runtime for Last Jedi. No surprise, but it's rated PG-13 due to sequences of sci-fi action and violence. In case you couldn't tell by the stuff blowing up in the trailers and the TV spots,
yes,
people are going to die.
That would give you your indication.
Also, during a press conference in France, Johnson confirmed the film's runtime to be 150 minutes, making it the longest installment in the film franchise. So, I don't think we're surprised by that.
That has been the rumor for a good little while.
Yeah, he had already said it was going to be over 2 hours.
Yeah.
Probably months ago. But yeah, I'm excited. I think we're going to need 2.5 hours to really dig into everything that they're digging into.
Well, it makes me excited because what that means to me is that there is a lot we have not seen.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't even think there's a lot that we have not even been indicated anything about.
Well, that's the thing.
And
really,
that makes me
whenever,
excited.
like we said, whenever you look at these TV spots, yeah, like they'll throw 2 or 3 new shots in, sometimes only 1, depending on how long the spot is. For the most part, it's the same footage, it's the same dialogue being repurposed and restructured. And I'm okay with that because I don't want to see the whole movie. I want to know that I've seen about 5 minutes of footage total and that there is, 145 more minutes of it that I have no clue what it's going to look like. So,
exactly.
Very exciting. All right, well, keeping up, talking about the beautiful space boy that we were earlier, Poe Dameron, Oscar Isaac opened up about some of the comments people have made about him being the next Han Solo, and Oscar disagreed. He said, well, there could be an opening for a Han-like character, but I think what the Last Jedi director Rian Johnson did was make it less about filling a slot and more about what the story needs. The fact is now that the Resistance has been whittled to just a handful of people, they're running for their lives, and Leia is grooming him, to be a leader of the Resistance as opposed to a dashing rogue hero. So, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense. I think it makes sense with his character. I never really even saw him as a Han Solo type, personally. His personality is different, and, I mean, Han was always very lackadaisical about even being part of the Resistance, or the Rebellion. So I don't see Poe as that kind of.
Yeah,
I mean, he's got a cool jacket and stuff.
Yeah, like
with
he's
Han,
got the cool jacket. He's a good pilot, obviously, like Han. Like there are some similarities in that.
But I think character-wise,
I feel like it's very different.
Very different.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, to be fair, like whenever A New Hope starts, like Han is super selfish and just all about himself and about money and unwilling to get involved, and Poe is quite the opposite. In fact, I think he's going to be on the other side of things and maybe a little too committed to the cause.
Yeah, exactly.
But his heart beats for the Resistance. There is no scoundrel to heart of gold. He just has, the heart of gold kind of down. And we're just glad he's still around, that, people didn't kill him in The Force Awakens like they were planning to.
Yeah,
so
this is very true.
Just want to say that. And so, keeping with people commenting on their characters, Benicio del Toro made a comment about his character DJ during an interview with Sci-Fi Now magazine. And his comment was, you don't know what he is, but that's the idea. You don't know if he's good or bad. So with the whole thing of like, he's neither hero nor villain.
Yeah, I have a feeling that he's probably... doesn't have an allegiance per se, but I have a feeling he's gonna screw him.
That's what I want.
That's what I want. And
is that bad?
I just feel like you don't get Benicio del Toro if it's not going to be some kind of
thing,
betrayal.
Well,
not to mention, you can already put it together a little bit in the TV spots because he's obviously with, spoiler alert, with Finn and Rose
in the
on some sort
of
Imperial vessel. And that part, even in the new trailer, is him kind of with a look and walking away. So I feel like...
Here's the other reason why. Okay, I feel like we've had several of these characters that start out being out for themselves, like Han, not really involved, not really invested. You had him, you kind of had Lando being the same way.
Yeah.
You have, even the books, you have some of these bounty hunters like Jazz out of Aftermath. And what happens is they all kind of become mushy over time, and they turn and they help the
cause.
The cause, yeah, it's the rebellion at that point in time, because that's all previous examples. But I think we've had the rogue character going soft so many times, and don't get me wrong, we all love it, but I think it would be a really nice change for him to be the opposite. Do you know what I mean? Especially if Maz is the one that kind of recruits him and connects him with her being a trustworthy character.
Yeah.
You assume that he's going to be, and then for him to not be and to completely betray Rose and Finn. I'm not usually one to cheer for like people turning dark, but I'm like, that's what I want. Like, I want us to break the system a little bit. And the other thing is, Rian Johnson has talked about the fact that this film is going to push the characters to their breaking points. Like, that is what the middle of the story is supposed to do. And I think that's how you push Rose and Finn.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, anyway, maybe a little too passionate about that subject. Just saying. So our last story is not really anything new. Back during Star Wars Celebration, Billy D. Williams had said that he was not going to be in The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
Rian Johnson just confirmed it in an interview with EW, that Lando is not in The Last Jedi, and that's fine. I don't need Lando to be in The Last Jedi.
It's fine. I mean, at this point,
We're gonna get plenty of Lando in the Solo.
Yeah, and like I don't want them to just shoehorn him into something just because. So and who knows? I mean, he may be a 9. I mean, we may get a mention in a book, or there may be a comic book series or something.
You never know.
It's been 30 years. It's not like there's tons of things that could have gone on, so he wouldn't necessarily be there.
There are tons of people too who were a part of the rebellion that are not a part of the resistance. You know what I mean? Like, they did their fighting, and they're older now, and they're done.
So it's not. Yeah, it's not a surprise.
Yeah, definitely not. So while we've talked a lot about The Last Jedi, understandably so, we do have one little miscellaneous bit of movie news, and we just added it in here because I think it's absolutely fantastic. That during the Rhode Island Comic-Con, Sebastian Stan was asked about his interest in playing a young Luke Skywalker. Thanks to the internet being very savvy and showing just how similar he looks to a young Mark Hamill. And his response was that, I just want to say here that anytime anyone would like to call me and ask me about Luke Skywalker, I'd be very happy.
Not a big shock on that one.
Yeah, like, how terrible to be like, so I look like a young Mark Hamill apparently, thank you internet, and I would be happy to portray this character on screen at any point.
I used to think there probably would be a very small chance of them actually doing anything revolving around Luke at a younger age. But that was also before they announced Solo.
Yeah.
And have somebody else in. So I think it would be interesting. I don't know if they would do it or not, but he looks enough like him that
I think if they ever did anything post Return of the Jedi, and started going into all of his stuff, looking for the temples and everything,
I would totally
even training a young Kylo, like,
I would be totally game.
For those of you who have not seen this, by the way, it's eerie.
I'll put a picture in.
Cool. John's gonna put a picture in. You're welcome. Here it is. It's awesome. So here's to hoping that Lucasfilm is listening and that they cast Sebastian.
Let's get a Legends of Luke Skywalker.
That's right.
Film.
That's right. Let's do it. All right. Well, usually we pick up with the small screen here. However, there's really not a lot to talk about because Rebels is over until 2018. We don't have a date yet, so whenever we do, I guess that will be what we were talking about. And we already talked about the fact they're going to do a live action show, and we already speculated about that, so that's pretty much it for the small screen. Which brings us into our book, the bookshelf. So I am still working through the From a Certain Point of View. I am not going to lie, I hit an exceptionally long short story, as weird as that sounds, and I have struggled through this one, though, and I haven't been quite able to get past it, but my goal is to really dig in over Thanksgiving break, because that's what breaks are for spending time with family and reading books.
That's right.
So, with that, though, I do want to mention that Kanto Bite is the next novel in the Journey to the Last Jedi series that's going to come out. It comes out very soon on December 5th, so I'll remind you guys again next week because that'll be closer to it actually releasing. But here's the official synopsis. It says, set across one fateful evening, these 4 interconnected stories explore the deception and danger of the lavish casino city. An honest salesman meets a career criminal as a dream vacation turns into the worst nightmare imaginable. Dreams and schemes collide when a deal over a priceless bottle of wine becomes a struggle for survival. Old habits die hard when a servant is forced into a mad struggle for power among Kanto Bite's elite. And a deadbeat gambler has one last chance to turn his luck around. All he has to do is survive one wild night. In Kanto Bite, one is free to revel in excess, untouched from the problems of the galaxy, once again descending into chaos and war. Dreams can become reality, but the stakes have never been higher, for there is a darkness obscured by all the glamour and luxury. So, this is pretty much going to be a must-read, I'm pretty sure, before The Last Jedi, just because we don't have a lot of information on Kanto Bite outside of a few pictures and just understanding that it's there for a bunch of rich a-holes, as Ryan Johnson has phrased it. Yeah. So, check that out, December 5th. I'll be picking it up on that day, probably. So,
definitely.
Pretty excited.
Well, that leads us into Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. And for a change, we have a lot of news about this.
After weeks of being like, oh, here's what's going on in Star Tours.
The well has been dry for a while.
Which is still going to be in the rundown.
Yes. The big news this week was that they announced the name of the planet for Galaxy's Edge. We've known for a while that this was based on a new planet previously unknown. But we now know it as Batuu. They also have it integrated into Star Tours, which I think is cool, but it's also a little bit weird that what you arrive at Batuu and then walk into the Muppets courtyard. But a little.
It'll be a little less weird in about a year and a half.
That's right. But C-3PO in the ride does refer to it as a quote safe place.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, and that leads us into.
It's like it's a safe place for now.
For now, yeah. And that leads us into some blueprints of the Disneyland version that were filed with the city of Anaheim. And what we know is that this park the layout is going to differ a little bit from what Hollywood Studios is going to have in Florida, only because there's only going to be 2 entrances for Hollywood instead of 3 in Anaheim. But what guests from Fantasyland are going to see is a first order performance stage and other props, which we think was that there's like a TIE fighter and some other things in that corner in the model. So basically what everybody's thinking is it's going to be kind of divided into a first order side and a resistance side,
which is going to be so cool.
So there's going to be a starship from the resistance and other props and a forest on the Jedi section, which you can clearly see in some of the work. And then of course land layout we've kind of already known. The first order ride, the Falcon ride, and then kind of divvied up in between shops and different things. But the first order ride is bearing the codename Alcatraz.
That's awesome.
The show building takes up nearly a quarter of Star Wars land. In case if you've seen the photos, you can tell just how giant that thing is. The plans reveal that inside visitors will hop aboard an 8-person ride vehicle piloted by an astromech. Visitors will weave through projection screens depicting a major space battle with elaborate props such as AT-ATs, gunners, and a possible encounter with Kylo Ren before leaving in an escape pod. Supposedly there are 18 scenes total in the ride, so this is a massive experience. I personally think it's amazing if you're going to be leaving via an escape pod. So awesome. The Flying the Falcon ride is dubbed as Big Bird in plans, which you gotta love that. There is going to be a to scale 100 foot across Millennium Falcon parked in front, as we all know. Inside the ride has a pre-show room before guests board into what appears to be 4 turnable rooms, which is very similar kind of to what Mission Space and that kind of thing. And you can see some of the photos about that. And obviously they have said before that if you do a good job flying the ship, you have some sort of reward, and if you do a bad job, someone might come find you. There's going to be a cantina, which we've already kind of known, but this is going to feature Rex the droid from Star Tours as a DJ. And it looks like it's going to be a U-shaped bar with some seating inside and probably some seating outside. Very much feels like kind of the Mos Eisley kind of thing from A New Hope. Merchants Row is going to be kind of the trading / merchandise section of the park. There's one shop already labeled as Saber, so big shocker is what they'll be selling on that.
I do wonder. Yeah,
yeah, I know, right? Everything's going to be made to look aged and distressed, and mostly kind of metal. There's even some pod racing elements in there, so that's kind of cool. There's going to be obviously we already know that droids are going to be all over the place in this park, and apparently there's going to be droid charging stations located throughout the land, so these things will actually just roam around and then dock back. And I think one of the most exciting thing is there's going to be a land speeder garage. I mean, let's just talk about that.
How excited he is by this.
So I'm sure it'll be like a photo op, or like, get your picture when it's in a land speeder.
And Jonathan will stand in line and get his picture on a land speeder.
I'll be the only 30 whatever year old at that point by the time it opens.
Don't lie, you won't be. There are going to be plenty of people who are going to.
Yeah, that's true.
It's going to be mostly parents making their children stand in line.
Absolutely. You will take a picture of this land speeder.
And I will get in it with you.
And then lastly, there will be one large sit-down restaurant, which is going to be table service. The restaurant is yet to be named or themed, but appears in the middle of the land. And based on the plans, it looks like it'd be larger than the Blue Bayou, which is the Pirates Ride restaurant in Disneyland. So a pretty decent-sized restaurant. Yeah. You won't be able to get in, I'm sure, at all whenever it opens.
But it's nice to know that it's there. You can look at it and wave.
So that gives us a little bit more information. I'd look for some of this probably to be fleshed out a little bit more during Galactic Nights in December down in Disney World.
Yeah.
So for a change, there's some information about what's coming up in 2019.
Yep. And we cannot wait.
Absolutely.
Well, that leads us into actually some Star Wars merchandise. We don't normally have a lot on this here, but I did want to announce that Hasbro has unveiled a new range of Star Wars collectibles. It's the miniature Micro Force figures line. The first wave will be hitting stores in December and feature favorite characters from all the various eras of Star Wars. While speaking to StarWars.com, Hasbro's Andy Ochiltree, that's a great name, by the way, that I'm pretty sure I just murdered, explained that it was really important to us that Microforce had design language all its own. He also stated that the goal with this new range is to celebrate these beloved characters in a way that feels fresh and, most importantly, fun. Did you get to take a look at them, by the way?
Yeah.
I feel like they look very kid-friendly.
They look very kid-friendly.
Like, I feel like a lot of kids are going to be excited about these little figurines. Although I do think it's interesting, one of the things they chose to do is Yoda's Force Ghost. Did you notice that? And it's primarily, like, they're mixed up, but it's primarily with mostly new characters in Episode 8.
I have a feeling we're going to be seeing Yoda anyway.
I just thought, that's a fun little throw-in.
Yes, indeed it is.
Lucasfilm and Hasbro. But anyway, that's really the big news on merch.
Yeah. Pretty cool little things. Well, that leads us into Today in Star Wars History 101. I skipped a day ahead because I thought today's was rather boring. So we're going to do November 23rd. Close enough.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
That's right. Arista Records releases the Star Wars Trilogy Anthology set, which was in 1993.
Oh, wow.
So I was looking at the cover art, and I'm like, pretty sure we owned this at some point in time.
I'm sure we did.
And we still own quite a bit.
Yes.
Just most of it's digital now.
Yeah.
So you can listen to it everywhere.
Yeah. Or we just have a lot of decor. So,
That's right. Well, that does it for episode 7 of the Resistance Rundown. Thanks for checking us out. If you like this video, give us a like. Give us a comment. Subscribe
please.
If you'd like to see more of us every Wednesday. If you'd like more general movie news, you can check out the Shot List, which is our movie podcast. I'll include the link below. You can find our movie reviews on Twitter and Instagram at ATL_movies or on AboveTheLineMovies.com. You can also find me on Twitter and Instagram at BeachJD.
And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at MCBeach.
Well, thanks for tuning in. We'll see y'all next Wednesday.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.